Hello, I'm Jen, and this is Literary Love 123. Thank you for watching. If you are new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today is part two of my February wrap up, but you don't have to watch part one before you watch this. So if you haven't watched part one, I hope you'll go back and watch it. But you can watch this first because the first wrap up I did that was a wrap up of the classics that I reread this month, plus a bonus that was kind of an update on a classic. And today is going to be my wrap up of all the books I read that were new to me. So let's get started. A little bit about me. I love to drink coffee and use my master's degree in English to discuss horror and other genres from a literary and academic standpoint. But I also like to just have fun talking to all of you about books. So, in today's video, I will be talking about the books that I read in February that were new to me. And I'm going to do as I usually do, where I start with my least favorite and then work all the way up to my favorite so that we end on a positive note. Now, I will not be talking in depth about some of these books because I will be linking for you a vlog that I did in February where I talked in great detail about some of the books. And then I will also be linking a live show discussion that I participated in on Elizabeth Sagewood's channel to discuss the first book that I want to briefly talk to you about. And that is my least favorite book of February. My least favorite book that I've read in the last 5 years, possibly the least favorite book that I've ever read. I gave this book 1 star. So if you're wondering why I finished it, typically I would not finish a book that I'm ending up giving 1 star, but I finished it because I wanted to be able to thoroughly discuss it on Elizabeth's channel. And I will link that live show discussion down in the description box below. But the book that I gave 1 star to is Bluebeard's Castle by Anna Biller. Don't let the cover fool you. I don't really want to give any time to this book in this video at all. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts along with Elizabeth's thoughts and Jackie from the Jersey Ghouls podcast, she was on Elizabeth's show too. So if you want to hear what we thought of this book, then definitely check that video out. Now, the next 3 books that I want to talk about, they were not my least favorite, but they just really weren't kind of striking my fancy over the past month. And the first one is Where Thy Dark Eye Glances, Queering Edgar Allan Poe. And this is edited by Steve Berman. And I think this was on me because I initially thought when I saw this, I didn't read the synopsis. I thought that it was going to be a scholarly type book where you had academic essays about the works of Edgar Allan Poe. But instead, it's like reimaginings or retellings of Poe. And I just kind of wasn't in the mood for that, especially because I'd gone into it thinking, okay, here's some scholarly, looks at how we can see the LGBTQ community represented in Poe's work. So that's what I was looking for. And this isn't exactly what this delivered. So I would say that is definitely a soft DNF and a book that I will revisit. I also forgot to mention that I participated in 3 readathons during February. And Bluebeard's Castle, in addition to being Elizabeth Sagewood's book pick for the Haunted Victorian Book Club, also I used it for the Gothic Hearts Challenge, where a protagonist is haunted by nightmares, and a retelling of a Gothic classic, which it really didn't end up being, but that's for the live show link down below. I also used it for Cat's Novel Adventures Folklore February, the prompt for mystery. And then I had initially picked this for My Bloody Valentine for the body part in the title, beard. But if you go back and watch my vlog for My Bloody Valentine, which I will link at the end of this video, then you will see that I ended up picking a couple of different things for that prompt. So the next book I want to talk about is another one that I read for Folklore February, and this is Shakespeare's Folktale Sources by Charlotte Ortiz. Now, when I say I read it for mirth. That was the prompt in Folklore February, and that was amusement, laughter, and merriment. And so, with this, I did not read much. I'll be honest. I read the first section, which was about. Let me go back and see. This is like no, I don't even think I read anything. I think I just read the introduction. So, yeah, I'm not giving this one a rating. This is not a DNF at all. This is just, I just was having trouble getting into it. I had some illness and some issues during February. And if something wasn't working for me, with the exception of Bluebeard's Castle, I just DNF'd it and moved on. The next one was also for Folklore February, and this was the prompt for magic. And I also was using this for the Gothic Hearts Challenge prompt with a female protagonist who defies societal expectations. So I ended up just reading one story in this, and this is Fearless Girls, Wise Women, and Beloved Sisters, Heroines and Folk Tales from Around the World by Kathleen Reagan. And the story I read was interesting. I'm trying to get back and even see what the name of it is because I did this at the beginning. The Stolen Bairn and the Sea, or the She, and this was a Scottish fairy tale. And to be honest, I really don't remember anything about it. So again, these fairy tales they just weren't working for me this month. So I ended up putting this one down too. Now, let's get on to a book I actually did read. And this one is Out There Screaming. These are stories edited by Jordan Peele. It's subtitled An Anthology of New Black Horror. And I ended up giving this one an overall rating of 3. I had stories that gave, some of them 5 stars. I think the lowest rating one, I gave a couple of them 2 stars. And I did use this for a couple of prompts. One is for the Gothic Hearts Reading Challenge prompt to read a book featuring a BIPOC character, and for Coral at Pretty and Paper Cuts My Bloody Valentine Readathon, I used this for the prompt Black Author. I'm not going to talk about this book now because, again, because I read it for My Bloody Valentine, you can check out my thoughts on that book in that blog. And the next book that I want to talk about is one. Let me set. This was my problem in February too. I did put entirely too many books on my TBR, and then I mood read a whole lot too. So that's why I ended up splitting my February wrap up into 2 different videos. But the next book I want to talk about is The Heroine with 1,001 Faces by Maria Tatar. And this is a take on Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces, where he talks about the hero's journey. So this kind of takes that and puts a feminist spin on it. And I use this for the monster prompt in Kat's Folklore February readathon, because we do have women dealing with monsters, both fantastical and very real. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I like the way that she took the idea of the hero and reclassified that as a more coming from a standpoint of a heroic woman. And the thing that probably I would say kept me from giving up 5 stars is I felt like at the end she just started throwing out a bunch of characters from contemporary works that I'm not really sure fit in with the idea of the book. Characters like Amy Dunn from Gone Girl, which I love Gone Girl, love the book, love the movie. I think Amy's a very interesting character, but sometimes it felt like these, characters she wrote about weren't really connected in any kind of way. But I do recommend this book. I did, like I said, I gave it 4 stars, so I enjoyed it. The next book that I want to talk about, I gave 5 stars to, and I talked about it in depth in my Bloody Valentine readathon, and that is A House with Good Bones. I ended up using bones here as a prompt in My Bloody Valentine to read a book with a body part. I loved this. It is my favorite T. Kingfisher book so far. So a lot of people don't like A House with Good Bones, but like I said, I gave it 5 stars. It just hit me right where I needed it to. In the month of February, I actually listened to it on audio, even though I did have a physical copy, but I just felt like I wanted something to listen to. And it kept my attention. I had a great time with it. Like I said, my full thoughts are in the My Bloody Valentine vlog. The last physical book that I read in February, I listened to it on audio first and I loved it so much that I needed a physical copy. And that is The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. I gave this 5 stars. It really spoke to me, it resonated with me. I read the criticisms and I know why some people don't like this book. Some people feel like it's written too raw and too visceral. But for me, as someone who struggles with major depressive disorder, and often sometimes I struggle with, I'll give a little content warning here, thoughts of unaliving myself, and attempted that back in 2017. I felt like the real visceral, in your face writing that V. Castro did for her main character in this book was very realistic. And I felt validated. I felt seen. I have a lot more thoughts that I want to share about The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. So I will be uploading sometime in March a personal response video where I do not only a full review of The Haunting of Alejandra, but where I give my personal response as a reader and talk about why this book resonated with me and why I gave it 5 stars. So be looking for that video. The next thing I want to do is talk about the audiobooks and the Kindle versions of books that I read, and we'll go ahead with that now. I read on audio format in February was Parasocial by Wendy Dalrymple. I gave this book 4 stars. I did read it for the My Bloody Valentine readathon, so you can check out my thoughts on that in the My Bloody Valentine vlog that I did. Another book that I read in February for My Bloody Valentine was Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. And that's another book that I doubled up on a prompt, the prompt to read a book with a body part in it. And I gave Nettle and Bone 4 stars. And you can find out more about what I thought of it in my Bloody Valentine vlog. Another book that I listened to on audio in February was Ling Hun by Ah Jiang. This book explores grief, loss, the downside of not being able to let go of a deceased loved one. It dealt with themes of how that affects not only you, but everyone in your life. It's very unusual in the way that it's told because we have our narrator and her parents who move into this exclusive neighborhood called home, and everyone there has experienced some kind of loss. And I don't really want to say a lot more about it because I feel like it's best to go into this one without knowing too much. So I did give it 5 stars. It was beautiful, and I highly recommend it for sure. The last book that I listened to on audio was Death Valley by Melissa Broder. I loved this one so much that I really want to get a physical copy of it too. I obviously gave it 5 stars. So we're following our main character who is dealing with not only her own mental health struggles, Her husband is very sick. Her father has been in an accident and is comatose, kind of coming in and out of that coma. So she's dealing with those stressors, not only within herself, but in the people around her that she loves. And I felt a kinship with this narrator because, as I've mentioned previously, I have my own mental health struggles. This past August, my husband was hospitalized for 2 weeks and had to have emergency surgery. And my mom is also diagnosed with Parkinson's. So this book just really hit close to home for me, but I found it very cathartic to listen to. So, our main character, she needs a breakaway from everything. So, she heads to this Best Western in the desert, and what she finds there on a hike is this cactus. It's a huge cactus, it's not native to the area, and she's able to enter inside this cactus. And when she's in there, she's able to experience some things that help to bring about some healing within her. And that's all I really want to say about that because I don't want to cry. And because I feel like if the less you know with this, I think the better. So, yeah, 5 stars, absolutely. And that's a wrap on February. Be looking later on this month for my personal response video to V. Castro's The Haunting of Alejandra. I will also be announcing an exciting project I have upcoming in April for Poetry Month because April is National Poetry Month. So I want to do something focused on poetry. So be watching for that too. In the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. And I would love it if you would hit that like button, subscribe, and click that bell so you'll never miss a video from me. Thank you. Bye.